The signal came through on a dead frequency that nobody monitored anymore. It bounced through empty space for 6 hours before anyone even noticed it existed. When the Galactic Council's automated systems finally picked it up, the message was simple and desperate. This is the Zavrathi transport vessel Morning Prophet. We are under attack in the Korath expanse. Hull breached. Life support failing. 24 souls aboard. Please help anyone, please. The message repeated every 30 seconds. Each time the voice sounded weaker. In the Great Hall of the Galactic Council, a dozen species gathered around a holographic display. The signal blinked red against the star map. Velkesh, the Insectoid Council liaison, clicked his mandibles together in thought. His compound eyes reflected the dim light as he pulled up the relevant data. The Korath expanse, he said to the assembled representatives. Sector classification, contested. Current occupants, Krull Dominion raiding parties. Estimated hostile vessels in area 8 to 12. A reptilian counselor leaned forward. What cargo does the transport carry? Velkesh pulled up another screen. Textiles, spices, educational materials. Total value 47,000 credits. And the rescue cost? Estimated minimum 3 military vessels. Fuel, ammunition, potential casualties. Velkesh paused. Projected cost 600,000 credits. Risk assessment, high. The council chamber filled with murmurs. Several representatives shook their heads. The math was simple. The Zavrathi were merchants, not warriors. The Krull were brutal raiders who had controlled that sector for 3 years. Sending help would cost more than the entire ship and cargo combined. We should vote, someone said. The vote took 4 hours. By the time they reached a decision, the Zavrathi had been under attack for 10 hours. The council decided to send a formal inquiry to the Krull Dominion, asking them to cease hostilities. It would take 3 days to reach them through official channels. Everyone in the chamber knew what that meant. The Zavrathi were on their own. Velkesh filed the paperwork with a heavy heart. He had served on the council for 20 years. He had seen this happen before. The galaxy was a harsh place, and sometimes the numbers just did not work out. It was tragic, but it was reality. 3,000 light-years away, Captain Sarah Chen sat in the command chair of the Defiant Spirit and listened to the same distress call. Her ship was not pretty. It had started life as a cargo hauler, built by humans who needed to move supplies between colony worlds. Over the years, Chen and her crew had added weapons, upgraded the shields, and reinforced the hull. It looked like a junkyard had mated with a warship, but it flew. Got a distress call, Captain, said Rafe from the pilot seat. He was young, maybe 25, with shaggy brown hair and sharp eyes. Zavrathi transport. Under attack. Chen stood up and walked to the navigation console. How far? 4 hours at maximum burn. What's attacking them? Marcus, the engineer, pulled up the sensor data on his screen. He was older, maybe 50, with gray in his beard and scars on his hands. Krull raiders. Looks like 8 ships. The transport doesn't stand a chance. Dr. Yuki Tanaka looked up from her medical station. She was small and precise, with steady hands and tired eyes. Do we have enough fuel to get there? Barely, Rafe said. We'd be running on fumes, but yeah. Chen looked at the star map. The Korath expanse was marked in red. Dangerous territory. The Krull Dominion had claimed it 3 years ago, and they did not like visitors. Any ship that entered was fair game. The council avoided it entirely. Set course, Chen said. Maximum burn. Marcus turned in his chair. Captain, that's Krull space. We go in there, we might not come out. I know. We're 1 ship. They have 8. I can count, Marcus. So why are we doing this? Chen looked at him. Her face was calm, but her eyes were hard. Because someone asked for help. The crew exchanged glances. They had served with Chen for 3 years. They knew how she thought. On Earth, Chen had been a security officer on a frontier colony. She had seen what happened when help did not arrive. She had pulled bodies from burning buildings while waiting for rescue ships that came too late. She had made a promise to herself then. If she ever heard someone calling for help, she would answer. Strap in, Chen said. This is going to be fast. The Defiant Spirit turned and accelerated. Inside the cargo bay, loose equipment rattled. The engines roared as Rafe pushed them to maximum output. The ship shook and groaned, but it held together. Back on the council station, an automated alert pinged on Velkesh's terminal. A human ship had changed course. It was heading toward the Korath expanse. He pulled up the data and felt his blood run cold. No, he whispered. No. He opened the communication channel. It took 30 seconds to connect. When the screen cleared, he saw Captain Chen's face. Human vessel Defiant Spirit, this is Galactic Council Liaison Velkesh. You are approaching contested space. Alter your course immediately. Negative, Chen said. We're responding to a distress call. The Council has reviewed the situation. A response is not warranted. The risk is too high. Not my problem. Velkesh clicked his mandibles in frustration. Captain, please be reasonable. The Zavrathi transport carries minimal value. 8 Crawl raiders are in that sector. You are one ship. The mathematics are not in your favor. We don't do math on lives, Chen said. We're going in. You will die. Maybe, but we're still going. The connection ended. Velkesh stared at the blank screen. Humans. He had read about them. They came from a planet called Earth. A horrific world of extreme weather and deadly predators. The Council had classified it as a Class 12 death world, one of the most dangerous planets ever catalogued. Humans had evolved there, learning to survive against impossible odds. But this was madness. This was suicide. Velkesh opened a channel to the Council Observation Network. If the humans were really doing this, the galaxy needed to see it. Perhaps it would serve as a warning to other species. Perhaps it would show why emotional decision-making was a fatal flaw. Within an hour, a dozen species were watching. The feeds showed the Defiant Spirit approaching the Korath expanse at maximum speed. They showed the 8 Crawl raiders surrounding the crippled Zavrathi transport. They showed the final moments before contact. In the council chamber, representatives gathered around the displays. No one spoke. They all knew what was about to happen. They were about to witness humanity's first major military engagement. With a hostile force, they were about to learn what humans did when they heard someone calling for help. The Defiant Spirit crossed into the Korath expanse. The Crawl raiders detected it immediately. They turned their weapons toward this new target. On the council displays, probability calculations appeared. The humans had a 3% chance of survival. Captain Chen sat in her command chair and watched the raiders grow larger on her screen. All hands, she said over the intercom. Battle stations. Remember your training. Remember why we came. She paused. Let's go get them. The galaxy watched. And it was about to learn what Deathworlders really meant. The Crawl Dominion did not believe in quick deaths. They believed that fear was a weapon and suffering was a tool. For 2 days, they had been taking turns torturing the Zavrathi crew. They broadcast the screams across open channels, letting other species in nearby sectors hear what happened to those who traveled through crawl space without paying tribute. Commander. Thruktar stood on the bridge of his flagship and watched his warriors work. He was massive even for a Crawl, 8 feet tall with natural armor plates covering his body. His species had evolved on a heavy gravity world, making them dense and powerful. They had conquered 12 systems through strength alone. Commander, one of his officers said. Sensor contact. One ship approaching. Human design. Thruktar turned his massive head. Human? What is human? Records show they are a new species. Recently joined the galactic community. From a death world called Earth. Death world? Thruktar laughed. It sounded like rocks grinding together. We are from a death world. Every warrior race comes from a death world. What kind of death world? The officer pulled up the data. Class 12. Extreme weather. Predatory wildlife. Tectonic instability. High gravity. Toxic atmospheric components in some regions. Thruktar stopped laughing. Class 12? That is impossible. Nothing survives Class 12. Apparently humans do, Commander. How many ships do they send? Just one, sir. Thruktar relaxed. One ship. Probably some foolish captain trying to be a hero. He had seen it before. Young warriors from soft species, raised on stories of glory thinking they could change the galaxy. They always died screaming, "Let them come," Thruktar said. We will add human screams to our collection. The Defiant Spirit did not slow down as it approached. Rafe kept the throttle at maximum, pushing the engines until they glowed white-hot. Inside the ship, the crew felt the gravity press down on them. Most species would have passed out at 6 G-forces. Humans could handle more, but it was not pleasant. Distance to target? Chen asked through gritted teeth. 2 minutes, Rafe gasped, entering weapons range in 90 seconds. Marcus had rerouted power from life support to the weapons and shields. The temperature in the ship was dropping and the air was getting thin. But the weapons showed full charge. They're not moving, Chen said. They think we're going to negotiate. Are we? Dr. Tanaka asked. No. Chen had studied the Krull before the war. She knew their tactics. They were used to opponents who followed galactic protocols. They expected a hail demands negotiations. They expected fear. Rafe, Chen said quietly. When we enter weapons range, I want you to put us into the asteroid field. Maximum evasive. Don't let them get a clean shot. That's insane, Captain. At this speed, one mistake and we're paced. Can you do it? Rafe's hands tightened on the controls. Yes, ma'am. Marcus, target their engines first. I want them crippled, not destroyed. Not yet. Understood. On the Krull flagship, alarms started screaming. The human ship was not slowing down. It was accelerating. Straight at them. They're going to ram us, someone shouted. Impossible, Thruktar said. No species is that stupid. The defiant spirit hit the edge of the asteroid field at a speed that made Velkesh gasp in horror as he watched from 3,000 light-years away. The human ship twisted and rolled, dodging chunks of rock the size of buildings. Rafe's face was pale, sweat running down his forehead, but his hands were steady. Now, Chen shouted. The defiant spirit opened fire. 4 missiles streaked out, followed by concentrated laser fire. 2 Krull raiders never saw it coming. Their engines exploded in brilliant flashes of light. The ships went dead in space, spinning slowly. 2 down, Marcus yelled. Reloading! The remaining 6 Krull ships finally reacted. They spread out, bringing their weapons to bear. But Chen had already anticipated it. The defiant spirit was smaller and faster. It dove behind an asteroid as plasma bolts turned the rock into molten slag. Swing around, Chen ordered. Marcus, fire on my mark. The ship emerged from cover. Marcus launched another salvo. A 3rd Krull raider took hits along its flank. Atmosphere vented into space as its hull ruptured. The ship tried to turn, but it was too slow. A 2nd missile struck its bridge. The ship went dark. 3 down, Chen said. Her voice was eerily calm. 5 to go. Thruktar could not believe what he was seeing. 3 of his ships were disabled in less than 2 minutes. The human ship moved like nothing he had ever encountered. It used the asteroids for cover, attacked from unexpected angles, and never stopped moving. All ships focus fire on that pest. He roared, I want it destroyed! The 5 remaining Krull raiders concentrated their fire. The asteroid field lit up with weapons fire. But the defiant spirit seemed to know where each shot would be before it was fired. It twisted and dove, climbed and rolled. Rafe was breathing hard, his vision tunneling, but he did not slow down. Got a problem, Marcus shouted. Shields at 40%. Keep firing, Chen said. Another Krull ship took critical damage and broke off, trailing debris. 4 left. But the defiant spirit was taking hits now. The shields flickered and sparked. Alarms blared throughout the ship. Dr. Tanaka pulled up an external camera feed. She saw the Zavrathi transport in the distance, still under Krull guard. Captain, we need to reach that transport. Working on it. Marcus, I need you to do something crazy. I like crazy. What are we doing? Chen pulled up a tactical display. See that dead Krull ship? The one drifting with its engines blown? Yeah? We're going to use it as a bomb. Marcus stared at her. Then he started to laugh. You're insane. I love it. Chen looked at Rafe. Get us close to that dead ship. Then slingshot us around it toward the transport. On it. The defiant spirit changed course, racing toward one of the disabled raiders. The Krull ships followed, pouring fire into the human vessel. The shields went down to 20%, 15, 10. Now Marcus, Chen shouted. Marcus fired every remaining missile into the dead Krull ship's fuel reserves. The explosion was massive. It lit up the entire asteroid field like a second sun. The shockwave sent 2 pursuing Krull raiders tumbling. One smashed into an asteroid and broke apart. The other's engines failed, leaving it drifting. The defiant spirit rode the shockwave like a surfer on a wave, accelerating toward the Zavrathi transport. Only 2 Krull ships remained combat effective, and they were both damaged. Dr. Tanaka, Chen said. Prep the boarding equipment. We're going in. Captain, we don't have proper boarding equipment. Then we make some, Marcus. The engineer was already moving. On it. Give me 5 minutes. In the council chamber, the gathered species watched in absolute silence. The humans had destroyed or disabled 6 of 8 Krull raiders, against impossible odds, using tactics that made no sense. Fighting with a ferocity that scared even veteran military officers. How? Someone whispered. How are they doing this? Velkesh was studying the data. They are operating their ship at performance levels that should kill them. The G-forces alone should have knocked them unconscious. The heat, the thin atmosphere, the stress on their bodies. He looked up. They are dying. They just do not care. That's not possible. Look at their planet, Velkesh said quietly. He pulled up Earth's data. Images of hurricanes that could level cities. Earthquakes that split continents. Volcanoes that darkened the sky. Predators that hunted in packs. They evolved here. Their bodies adapted to survive constant death. This? He pointed at the battle on the screen. This is just another Tuesday for them. On the Kral flagship, Throcktar finally understood what he was facing. These were not soft council species. These were predators. Apex predators from a world that made his own homeworld look gentle. All ships retreat, he ordered, but Chen was not done. Rafe, pursue the flagships. Marcus, prepare the boarding pods. What boarding pods? Marcus called back. We don't have boarding pods. You have 5 minutes to make some. Marcus ran to the cargo bay. He found 3 heavy cargo containers. Using welding torches and spare rocket engines from the escape pods, he created the most terrifying boarding equipment the galaxy had ever seen. They were not elegant. They were not safe. But they would work. Probably the Defiant Spirit closed on the Zavrathi transport. The last 2 Kral raiders tried to stop them. But they were damaged and slow. Chen's ship darted between them, firing as it went. One raider lost its weapon systems. The other simply gave up and fled. That left the flagship. And Throcktar realized too late that he had made a terrible mistake. He had underestimated the humans. He would not survive long enough to make that mistake again. All crew, Chen said over the intercom. We're boarding that Kral ship. Get the Zavrathi out. And remember, we came here to save lives. Let's go do that. The crew of the Defiant Spirit grabbed their weapons. They strapped into Marcus's makeshift boarding pods. And they prepared to show the Kral what happened when you hurt innocent people in front of humans. The galaxy watched, and it was learning. Marcus's boarding pods were not designed by engineers. They were designed by desperation. Each one was a cargo container with a rocket engine welded to the back and a breaching charge welded to the front. There were no seats, no safety restraints, just handholds and prayers. This is the worst idea we've ever had, Rafe said as he climbed into the first pod. Top 5, at least, Marcus agreed from the second pod. Chen was in the third pod with Dr. Tanaka. She checked her weapons one last time. A rifle, a pistol, and a combat knife. Standard equipment for frontier security, though most council species would have considered them barbaric. Launch in 30 seconds, she said into her communicator. Remember, the Zavrathi are being held in the cargo bay. That's our primary target. Secondary target is the bridge. We take control of the ship or we disable it. Either works. And if we run into Kral warriors? Rafe asked. Then we show them why you don't mess with humans. The pods launched. They were not graceful. They spun and tumbled through space, barely under control. Inside, the humans were thrown against the walls, but they held on. The pod slammed into the Kral flagship with enough force to breach the hull. The charges detonated, blowing holes in the armor. Chen and her team spilled out into a corridor filled with smoke and alarms. 3 Kral warriors stood nearby, stunned by the sudden breach. They were huge, their armor gleaming in the emergency lights. Each one carried weapons that could have torn a normal human in half. Chen did not give them time to react. She fired her rifle. The bullets were not standard galactic weapons. They were old Earth technology, chemical propellant driving metal projectiles. The Council had banned them centuries ago as too dangerous, but humans still used them. The first Kral went down with 3 bullets in his chest. The second tried to charge, but Rafe shot out his knee. The warrior crashed to the floor, roaring in pain. The third got his weapon up, but Marcus threw a homemade explosive. The blast sent the Kral flying backward into a wall. Move! Chen shouted. They ran through the corridors. The ship's layout was wrong for humans, designed for larger species. The doorways were tall and wide, the ceilings high. But that worked in their favor. They could move faster in the extra space. More Kral appeared. The fighting was brutal and close. The Kral were stronger, their armor was better, their weapons were more powerful. But the humans were faster, more flexible, and completely unpredictable. Chen slid under a Kral's grab and shot him in the unarmored joint under his arm. Rafe used the low gravity to jump off walls, attacking from angles the Kral never expected. Marcus turned every piece of equipment into a weapon, using fire extinguishers as clubs and electrical panels as improvised tasers. On the Kral flagship bridge, Thraktar watched his warriors fall one by one. It was impossible. The humans were smaller, lighter, weaker, but they fought like demons. They never stopped, never slowed down. They took wounds that should have been fatal and kept fighting. How? Thraktar muttered. How are they still standing? An officer pulled up medical data on humans. Commander, their bodies produce natural chemical stimulants when injured. Something called adrenaline. It allows them to ignore pain and injury. They also have redundant systems. They can survive with one lung, one kidney, significant blood loss. That is not possible. Commander, their planet tried to kill them for millions of years. They evolved to be nearly unkillable. Thraktar felt something he had not felt in years. Fear. Chen's team reached the cargo bay. Inside, the Zevrathi were huddled in a corner. They were small insectoid creatures with delicate limbs and soft bodies. Several were injured, bleeding from wounds that the Krull had inflicted for sport. When they saw Chen and her team burst through the door, they cowered, expecting more torture. We're here to help, Chen said quickly. We're human. We got your distress call. One of the Zevrathi, an older female with cracked chitin, looked up. You came? The council said no one would come. The council doesn't speak for us. Can you walk? Some of us. Others are badly hurt. Dr. Tanaka pushed past Chen and ran to the injured. She had her medical kit open before she even reached them. I'm a doctor. I'm going to help you. The Zevrathi watched in confusion as the human doctor began treating their wounds. Dr. Tanaka worked with quick, efficient movements. She had no idea about Zevrathi biology, but she knew trauma. She knew how to stop bleeding, how to stabilize broken limbs, how to keep someone alive long enough to get them to proper care. Captain, Rafe called from the doorway. We've got company. 6 Krull warriors appeared in the corridor, led by Thraktar himself. The commander was massive, his armor covered in battle scars. He carried a weapon that looked like it could punch through a tank. You have fought well, humans, Thraktar said. His voice was deep and rumbling. But this ends now. Surrender and I will make your deaths quick. Chen stepped forward. She looked tiny compared to the Krull commander. We don't surrender. That's not what humans do. Then you will die. Maybe, Chen said. But so will you. She pulled out a small device. It was a detonator. Marcus had rigged explosives throughout the ship during the fighting. Chen had hoped she would not need to use them, but she was prepared for anything. One more step and I blow this ship, she said calmly. Everyone dies. Yumi, everyone. Thraktar stopped. He studied the human in front of him. She was not bluffing. He could see it in her eyes. She would really do it. She would kill herself and her entire team to save the Zevrathi. It was insane. It was illogical. It was terrifying. You are bluffing, he said. No species would commit suicide for strangers. We're not like other species, Chen said. On Earth, we have a concept called sacrifice. We die for each other. We die for people we've never met. Because that's what makes us human. Not our strength, not our weapons. Our willingness to pay the price so others don't have to. Behind her, Dr. Tanaka was still working on the Zevrathi. Rafe and Marcus had their weapons trained on the Krull, ready to fight to the last. The Zevrathi watched in amazement. These creatures, these humans, were really willing to die for them. Stand down, Chen said. Let us take the Zevrathi and leave. Or everyone dies. Your choice. Across the galaxy, in the council chamber, every representative was frozen. They were watching a standoff between warriors. But it was not about strength anymore. It was about will. About who was willing to go further. Velkesh leaned forward. She is not bluffing. Look at her vital signs. Her heart rate is steady. Her breathing is calm. She has already accepted death. She is just waiting to see if she needs to use it. Thraktar looked at his warriors, then at the humans, then at the Zevrathi. He was a warrior. He understood strength and violence. But this was something else. This was a kind of madness that he had never encountered. Lower your weapons, he ordered his warriors. Commander, one of them said in shock. Lower them. Now the Krull warriors obeyed. Slowly, reluctantly, they lowered their weapons. Chen did not move. She kept the detonator in her hand. We're taking the Zevrathi, she said. All of them. And you're going to let us walk out of here. And if I agree? What then? Then you live. You tell your people what happened here. You tell them that humans answer distress calls. Always. And you tell them that the next time they prey on the innocent, we'll be there. Thraktar was silent for a long moment. Then he stepped aside. Go, Chen gestured to her team. Marcus and Rafe began helping the Zevrathi to their feet. Dr. Tanaka carried one who could not walk, cradling the small creature carefully. They moved slowly, keeping their weapons ready, expecting a trap, but the Kral did not move. They stood still as the humans led the Zevrathi out of the cargo bay, down the corridor and back to the breaching pods. It took 20 minutes to get everyone loaded. 20 minutes where Chen stood facing Thraktar, her finger on the detonator. When the last Zevrathi was secure, Chen backed away. "You made the right choice," she said, "did I?" Thraktar asked. "You have humiliated me, defeated my ships, rescued your prey. They're not prey, they're people. And yeah, you made the right choice, because now you get to live. You get to learn from this. Maybe next time, you'll think twice before attacking innocent people." Chen climbed into the last pod. As it launched, she kept her eyes on Thraktar. The Kral commander watched her go, his expression unreadable. The pods made it back to the Defiant Spirit. The ship's medical bay was not designed for Zevrathi, but Dr. Tanaka made it work. She converted the cargo bay into a temporary hospital, using supplies meant for humans on the insectoid creatures. It should not have worked, but somehow it did. Of the 24 Zevrathi who had called for help, 23 survived. As the Defiant Spirit limped away from the battlefield, its engines damaged and its hull scarred, Chen stood on the bridge and looked at the tactical display. 6 Kral ships disabled, 0 human casualties, 23 lives saved. Was it worth it? Rafe asked quietly. Chen thought about the Zevrathi in the cargo bay. She thought about the terror in their eyes when she had first found them. She thought about the hope when they realized they were being rescued. "Yes," she said, "it was worth it." In the council chamber, the assembled species were silent. They had just witnessed something that should not have been possible. A single human ship had defeated a Kral raiding party and rescued victims that the council had abandoned. The recording of the battle spread across the galaxy faster than light. Within days, every council world had seen it. Every species had watched the humans fight. The reactions were divided. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session. The Grand Chamber was packed with representatives from 40 species. The air was filled with competing voices, translated by machines into a cacophony of argument. Velkesh stood at the central podium, his mandibles clicking nervously. The humans violated 47 separate protocols. They entered contested space without authorization. They engaged in military action without council approval. They used banned weapons technology. This cannot stand. A reptilian counselor from the Sarn Collective raised his clawed hand. They also saved 23 lives that we abandoned. The cost analysis was clear, Velkesh insisted. The rescue was not economically viable. And yet they did it anyway, said a small furry representative from the Coral Confederacy. They spent their own resources, risked their own lives, asked for nothing in return. That is the problem, Velkesh hissed. They are unpredictable, emotional, illogical. If other species begin to emulate their behavior, it will destabilize the entire galactic economy. Or perhaps, the Coral said quietly, it will remind us what we have lost. The debate raged for hours. Some called for sanctions against Earth. Others called for commendations. The council was fracturing along lines that had not existed before. The younger species, the weaker ones who often found themselves at the mercy of raiders and predators, were starting to ask dangerous questions. If the humans could help, why couldn't the council? If one small ship could defeat 8 raiders, what excuse did the vast council fleet have? If strangers were worth saving, why did the council treat lives as line items in a budget? While the council argued, something else was happening. The Zevrathi survivors had reached a council station for medical treatment. The news networks interviewed them. The galaxy watched as the small insectoid creatures described their rescue. "We were dying," one of them said, her voice translated into standard. "The Kral were torturing us, broadcasting our screams. We called for help. The council said no one would come. But the humans came. They did not know us. They had no reason to risk their lives. But they came anyway. Why do you think they came?" the interviewer asked. The Zevrathi was quiet for a moment. "The human doctor, she told me something while she was treating my wounds. She said that on Earth there is an old saying. I am my brother's keeper." I asked her what it meant. She said it means that we are all responsible for each other, that we are all connected. that your pain is my pain. Your suffering is my suffering. The interview ended, but the word spread. Across dozens of worlds in hundreds of languages, species began to discuss this strange human concept. That strangers could be family. That distance did not erase responsibility. That suffering should be answered even at great cost. On Earth, in the human capital of Geneva, Ambassador Liu sat in his office and watched the galactic feeds with concern. He was an elderly man with gray hair and sharp eyes. He had been a diplomat for 40 years, navigating the complex politics of the Galactic Council. His assistant entered. "Ambassador, you need to see this." She handed him a data pad. It contained a secret communication from the Kral Dominion. Liu read it and felt his blood run cold. "They're going to attack a human colony world. New Harmony. It's a farming colony, barely defended. They're sending their elite warlord Thraxul with 30 warships. They want to make an example." Liu closed his eyes. New Harmony was home to 8,000 colonists. Farmers mostly. Families. Children. They had gone to that world to grow crops and live in peace. They had minimal defenses because humanity had believed the galaxy was civilized. "When?" Liu asked. "They're broadcasting their approach. 10 days, they want everyone to watch. They want to show the galaxy what happens when you defy the Kral." Liu looked at the datapad again. The Kral were expecting terror. They were expecting humanity to beg the Council for help. They were expecting Earth to abandon its own people the way the Council had abandoned the Zivrathi. "Get me a line to Earth Central Command," Liu said quietly, "and prepare a message for the Galactic Council." 3 days later, Liu stood before the Council. The chamber was quiet as he spoke. "Representatives of the Galactic Council, I come before you today to inform you of a crisis. The Kral Dominion has declared war on a human colony world. They are sending 30 warships against 8,000 civilians, most of them children." The chamber erupted in noise. Velkesh clicked his mandibles. "The Kral are within their rights. Your people violated their space. We answered a distress call. That does not change the reality of the situation. The Council cannot intervene in conflicts between member species and non-Council entities." Liu nodded slowly. "I understand. We are not asking for the Council's help. Then why are you here? To give you a message from Earth." Liu looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of each representative. "The Kral believe they can terrorize us. They believe we will beg for mercy. They believe we will abandon our people the way you abandoned the Zivrathi. They are wrong." He pulled up a holographic display. It showed a simple message broadcast on all human frequencies. "Come and take it." "What does this mean?" Velkesh asked. "It is a human saying. Very old. It means we will not surrender. We will not run. We will not abandon our people. The Kral are coming to take our world. We are inviting them to try. That is suicide. 30 warships against one colony." "You're right," Liu said calmly. 30 warships against one colony would be suicide. For the Kral. He pulled up another display. It showed dozens of human ships converging on New Harmony. Cargo haulers, mining vessels, passenger transports, survey ships. None of them were military vessels. But every single one of them had weapons. "These are our people," Liu said. "Farmers, traders, miners, families." The Kral called for war. "We are giving them war. Every human in 100 light years is heading to New Harmony. Not because we ordered them. Not because we paid them. But because that is what humans do. We protect our own." The Council chamber was silent. "You cannot possibly win," Velkesh said. "Perhaps not. But we will make them remember us. And the next time the Kral think about attacking innocents, they will remember what happened when they attacked humans." Liu left the podium. As he walked out of the chamber, the Choral representative called after him. "Ambassador Liu, the Council may not be able to help officially, but perhaps some of us might provide unofficial assistance." Liu stopped and turned. The small furry alien was standing, her large eyes sincere. Behind her, a dozen other representatives from smaller species were also standing. "We cannot send fleets," the Choral said, "but we can send supplies. Medical equipment, food, ammunition, things that might accidentally end up at New Harmony." A tear ran down Liu's cheek. "Thank you. That would mean more than you know." On New Harmony, the colonists were preparing. The planet was beautiful, with golden fields of wheat and vast orchards of earth fruit trees. The settlers had spent 10 years building a paradise. Now they were turning it into a fortress. Every farmer knew how to shoot. Every miner knew how to use explosives. Every parent was teaching their children where to hide and how to survive. They were not warriors, but they were human. and they would not go quietly. The Defiant Spirit arrived on day 7. Chen stepped off the ship and was greeted by Governor Martinez, a weathered woman in her 60s. "Captain Chen," Martinez said, "we heard what you did for the Zevrathi. Thank you for coming." "We're not the only ones," Chen said. She pointed at the sky. Dozens of ships were arriving, taking up positions around the planet. "Looks like the whole neighborhood heard about the party." Martinez laughed, though it was tinged with fear. "Think we can win?" "Honestly, no idea. But we're going to try, and if we go down, we're taking as many crawl with us as we can." "That's very human of you." "Yeah," Chen said. "It is." On day 10, the crawl fleet arrived. 30 warships, each one massive and bristling with weapons. Warlord Thraxul sat on the bridge of his flagship and looked at the planet below. It was beautiful. Soon it would be ashes. "How many defenders?" he asked. 48 ships, my lord. "None military grade, mostly civilian conversions," Thraxul laughed. "They sent civilians? This will be over in an hour." He opened a broadcast channel. "Humans of New Harmony, I am Warlord Thraxul of the Krull Dominion. You have defied us. You have humiliated us. Now you will pay the price. Surrender, and I will allow your civilians to live as slaves. Resist, and I will kill every living thing on that planet." There was a long pause. Then a response came. It was from Captain Chen. "Warlord Thraxul, this is Captain Sarah Chen. I have a message from the people of New Harmony, from the colonists and from every human in this system." "And what is that message?" Chen's voice was clear and cold. "Come and take it." The Krull fleet began to advance. The human ships moved to intercept. And the galaxy watched, holding its breath, as Deathworlders prepared to show the universe what they were truly capable of. In the council chamber, Velkesh and the other representatives watched the feeds. No one spoke. They were about to witness something that had never happened before in galactic history. They were about to watch humans defend their home. The Battle of New Harmony began at dawn. The Krull fleet moved in formation, 30 warships advancing like a wall of steel, their weapons charged, their shields at maximum. Warlord Thraxul expected a quick victory. He did not get one. The human ships did not form a defensive line. They scattered, breaking into small groups that darted and weaved through space. The Krull fired, but the humans were already gone, replaced by empty space and sensor echoes. "What are they doing?" Thraxul demanded. His tactical officer pulled up the data.
"They are not fighting like a fleet, my lord."
"They are fighting like individuals. No coordination. No formation. Just chaos. Then they will die in chaos, but something was wrong. The Krull ships were starting to take damage. Not from weapons fire, but from mines. The humans had seeded the space around New Harmony with thousands of improvised explosives. Some were sophisticated with sensors and targeting systems. Others were just metal containers filled with explosives and ball bearings, drifting silently until a Krull ship got too close. 3 Krull warships took critical damage in the first 10 minutes. One lost its engines. Another had its weapons knocked offline. The third simply exploded when it hit a cluster of mines disguised as debris. "Clear those mines," Thraxul roared, but clearing the mines meant slowing down. And slowing down meant the human ships could attack. They came in fast, fired everything they had, and retreated before the Krull could respond. A cargo hauler painted bright yellow emerged from behind a moon, launched a spread of missiles, and vanished back into cover. A mining ship used its industrial lasers to cut through a Krull ship's hull, venting atmosphere into space. A passenger transport somehow hacked into a Krull vessel's systems and turned its own weapons against nearby ships. The humans were not fighting like warriors. They were fighting like survivors. They used every trick, every advantage, every dirty tactic they could think of, and it was working. On the Defiant Spirit, Chen coordinated the chaos with grim efficiency. "Mining ship Prairie Dawn, target that dreadnought's engines. Cargo hauler Yellow Rose, I need you to draw fire from the left flank. Everyone else, keep moving. Do not let them get a clean shot." "Captain," Rafe called from the pilot seat. "They're adapting, starting to ignore the smaller ships and focus on the planet." Chen looked at the tactical display. Rafe was right. Thraxul had figured out the human strategy. If he could not catch the ships, he would destroy what they were protecting. A dozen Krull vessels broke formation and accelerated toward New Harmony. "We need to stop them," Marcus said. "I know." Chen made a decision that would haunt her for the rest of her life. "Prairie Dawn, this is Captain Chen. I need you to do something for me." The Prairie Dawn was a cargo freighter captained by an older woman named Margaret Ross. She had been hauling supplies between colonies for 30 years. She had grandchildren on New Harmony. "Go ahead, Captain," Margaret's voice came through the comm. "I need you to ram the lead dreadnought. Full burn. Hit them hard enough to break their formation." There was a pause. Everyone on the channel held their breath. Ramming was suicide. The crew would have seconds to evacuate if they were lucky. "Understood," Margaret said calmly. "My crew is heading to the escape pods now. Margaret, Captain Chen, I have 7 grandchildren on that planet. If ramming one ship gives them a chance to live, then that is what I am going to do." Prairie Dawn out. The cargo freighter changed course. Its engines burned white hot as it accelerated toward the Crawl dreadnought. The crew evacuated in small pods, launching in all directions. But Margaret stayed at the helm, guiding her ship toward its target. The Crawl saw her coming. They fired everything they had. The Prairie Dawn shields collapsed. Holes appeared in the hull. But Margaret kept going, adjusting her course with tiny bursts from the maneuvering thrusters. In the council chamber, every representative watched in horror and awe. The small cargo ship, barely 100 meters long, was heading straight for a warship 10 times its size. "She is going to die," someone whispered. "She knows," Velkesh said quietly, "and she is doing it anyway." The Prairie Dawn struck the Crawl dreadnought at full speed. The explosion was massive. Both ships were destroyed instantly, but the shockwaves scattered the Crawl formation, sending ships tumbling and buying precious time for the planet below. Chen watched it happen and felt something break inside her. Margaret Ross, captain of the Prairie Dawn, died in defense of New Harmony. She will be remembered. All across the human fleet, the message was repeated. Margaret Ross would be remembered, and her sacrifice would not be in vain. On New Harmony, the Crawl attempted to land troops. Thraxul sent down assault shuttles filled with warriors. They expected to face frightened farmers. They found something else entirely. The colonists had prepared. They had turned their farming equipment into weapons. Harvesters became mobile fortresses with reinforced armor and mounted weapons. Plows became tank traps. Irrigation systems were rigged with explosives. The Crawl landed in fields that looked peaceful but were actually killing zones. An elderly woman named Helen Park stood on the roof of her farmhouse with a hunting rifle. She was 73 years old, gray-haired and wrinkled. She had raised 6 children on this planet. She had buried her husband under an apple tree in her orchard. This was her home, and she would be damned if she let raiders take it. The Crawl warriors moved through her fields, confident and loud. Helen waited until they were in range. Then she fired. The first shot dropped a warrior. The second dropped another. The third made the rest dive for cover. "Come on then," Helen shouted. "I've got 5,000 rounds and nothing but time." The Crawl tried to flank her. They found her neighbors waiting, armed and angry. The colonists did not fight fair. They used snipers and ambushes. They trapped buildings and poisoned water supplies. They fought from the trees and from underground tunnels. The Crawl were stronger and better armed, but the humans knew the terrain. They had built this world. They knew every hill, every valley, every hiding place. In orbit, the battle continued. More human ships arrived, responding to the call for help. They were not military vessels. They were just people who heard that other people needed help. A medical ship arrived and began evacuating wounded. A science vessel used its sensors to coordinate the defense. Even a luxury yacht showed up, its wealthy owner using his personal weapons collection to fight off Crawl fighters. The galaxy watched in disbelief. This was not how wars were supposed to work. There was no grand strategy, no unified command, no careful cost-benefit analysis. There was just humans helping humans because that is what they did. On the Crawl flagship, Thraxul realized he was losing. He had started with 30 ships. He was down to 18. His ground troops were pinned down. His formation was shattered. And the humans just kept coming. "Retreat," he ordered. "My lord," his officer said in shock. "Retreat, now before we lose everything." The Crawl fleet began to withdraw. But the humans did not let them go easily. They harried the retreating ships, taking shots at engines and weapons. When the Crawl finally jumped to faster-than-light speed, they left behind 9 destroyed vessels and hundreds of dead warriors. The humans had won. In the council chamber, no one moved. They had just watched an inferior force defeat a superior one through nothing but courage and determination. The smaller species began to stand one by one. Then they began to applaud. Velkesh looked around in confusion. "What are you doing?" The choral representative smiled. "We are honoring warriors. Real warriors. The kind who fight for others, not for glory or profit. They broke protocol. They caused chaos. They won," the choral said simply. "And they showed us what we have become. We sit in our comfortable chambers and calculate the cost of lives. They go into danger and pay the price themselves. Who are the real monsters here?" Velkesh had no answer. On New Harmony, Captain Chen stood on the surface and watched the sun set over the golden fields. The battle was over. 8 human ships had been destroyed. 347 people had died. But 8,000 colonists had survived. The price had been high, but they had paid it willingly. Governor Martinez approached her. "Captain Chen, I don't know how to thank you." "You don't need to thank me," Chen said. "This is what we do. We answer the call, but why? You did not have to come. This was not your fight." Chen looked at the governor. "Yes, it was. The moment you called for help, it became my fight. That is what being human means. We are all connected. Your pain is my pain. Your struggle is my struggle." Martinez hugged her, tears streaming down her face. "I am my brother's keeper." "Yeah," Chen said softly. "Something like that." 3 days later, the Galactic Council voted on the New Harmony Accords. The measure passed by a narrow margin. From that day forward, all distress calls would receive a response. The Council would send help, regardless of the cost. Lives would be valued over profit. It was a revolutionary change, and it happened because humans had shown them a different way. But the vote was not unanimous. Species like the Krall abstained. Others voted against it. The galaxy was divided. Some saw humans as heroes. Others saw them as dangerous radicals who would destabilize centuries of careful balance. 1 week after the battle, Ambassador Liu received a message. It was from Thraxul himself.